Welcome to the sermon recap for this week. We covered the second sermon in a series called Building Healthy Relationships based on the Sermon on the Mount from Matthew chapter 5. And this week we talked about what to do with anger. Certainly anger is one of those emotions that wreaks havoc on relationships, or it can. And we've all been hurt by other people's anger, and we've probably hurt people with our own anger. And one of the things that Jesus says in this regard is that we should not be angry with somebody without a cause, and we shouldn't call people fools or rakah, say those sorts of things that are talking actually about levels of hatred and anger that we have towards other people. And one of the things to think about with anger is, where does it come from? And is it ever good? And we're actually told that there's a type of anger that is good called zeal, which its source is actually from heaven, from the angels in heaven, because it's about protecting what's good. If your child is in danger and you want to protect them, you might look like you're angry trying to get to them and help them, but once the danger ends, then you can be peaceful again. So zeal actually wants to protect something, wants to defend something, whereas anger, its source is from hell. Its source is from hatred and wanting to hurt somebody else. And it's not satisfied when the danger ends. It wants to keep punishing. It's kind of like that idea of, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And that, when you, maybe if you're a kid, your siblings got into sort of a tussle match or a wrestling match or punching match, and one person would punch another and you'd punch them, but you'd punch them harder, and it would just escalate from there. So Lord actually says, you heard of old an eye for an eye for a tooth and a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, if someone strikes you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. So this idea of learning to not let anger escalate, to let it calm, to forgive, and to try to let go of it. So that's one of the things we talked about. Also, how to reconcile it is learning to try to let go of anger when it does hurt us, and trying to see people as the angels see them, which is angels actually overlook the faults of other people and put a good interpretation on them, if at all possible. Now, overlooking the faults of others might be a bridge too far sometimes for us, so maybe we can put a good interpretation on other people's actions instead. And if you think of it this way, when something bad happens to you, if someone acts out in anger towards you, we tell ourselves a story that's believable, like they're such a jerk, or they're always mean to me, they're always calling me bad names, they're always saying nasty things. And when you hear yourself saying things like always and never, you can know that we're probably acting from a place that's not good. But so we tell ourselves a story and we believe it. So because we can tell ourselves a story about how that driver cut us off and they're so inconsiderate, we can also tell ourselves a different story, that maybe they were rushing to go see their partner who was in an auto accident. So we can actually tell ourselves a story that puts a good interpretation on it, which helps us to overlook it and helps it to see things more easily. Now, one of the other things that we talked about too was the ability to actually shift gears, so to speak, in our emotions, even though it feels like when we're angry or upset, it's all consuming and we can't do anything about it. The Lord actually tells us, you can't change your emotions, but you can change your thinking. And if you can change your thinking around something, the Lord can change our emotions, our feelings about it, and so create a different environment for us. But one of the things that I like to talk about is that you can be in a foul mood, and then someone calls you on the phone, and you answer the phone, but you don't answer it in a foul mood. You say, hey, how are you? I'm okay, how are you doing? We shift gears so quickly. So we have that ability if we choose to use it. So there's a lot that went on in this sermon about dealing with these sort of emotions and dealing with anger and how to work with it, how to forgive others, how to deal with our own anger. And one of the things we have to remember to do is ask the Lord for his help, which will also be the focus of our sermon next week, is our relationship with the Lord through prayer. All right, thanks so much for listening. I hope and pray you have a good week. See you next time.